Good morning. I have just had a pretty amazing ideas come through. Usually when we're in a dream state, which is the theta, we have some probably pretty profound dreams that we don't remember. I tend to get them and then I'm coming out of my dream into alpha state, which is when we're really, really relaxed. So the best way to get the greatest ideas tends to be in the alpha state when we're awake and coming out of theta state. So I want to share with you what came out for me this morning. Pretty profound. So this morning, wow, what I got was, the significance of big businesses and big organizations shaping our whole cultures and way in which we do things. So we might think, hey, I'm just going to, avoid all of that and just be a really happy, beautiful person. But at the end of the day, it's like our original cultures that we've had have been very much about community and a small town or tribe or small religious group, for example. And then we've sort of slowly over the last few hundred years given it over to large organizations who actually have specialties. I work in the area of people and culture, so there's a massive focus on creating great cultures. So for us to shift the way in which the world is, we need to shift actually how the businesses are running, because they are having such a massive influence on all of us because we often work there, and then also on the products and services that are having an impact on people and on the planet. So let's create some change by doing it from within. And if we've lost a lot of our cultural ties because we're so diverse now, let's actually use a lot of these amazing approaches to create a culture that we really want. Let's recreate the future together.
We've come to a tipping point where there is both that internal sense of things need to change, as well as that external looking at the planet and seeing some big issues around things needing to change. We have free will, and so we have two phases of life. The first phase is being here in this world and really getting to enjoy and experience fully the fact that we're in this physical reality. And so we explore it in all levels, and there comes a point where we start to say, hey, there might be more to life than this. Now, in the past, we would have explored that separately, personally from, for example, work. Work tended to be a place that we did conventional things, and if we wanted to explore the meaning of life or philosophies behind why things are like they are, we'd do that often at a personal level and keep that separate, because there were so many different outlets to being able to explore that. For example, religions, different cultural perspectives, a whole array of things. And the tipping point is about the fact that we're so global, and maybe even more, but for now, that idea of so many diverse viewpoints, belief systems. So the key is to just become aware that it can be quite simple, but we do need to face it. The phase one, realizations that maybe there is more to life than just the physical reality. There's so much more to, for example, why we feel like we feel, why we're feeling inner conflict, and then exploration of phase two. So the reason why we have initiatives like Conscious Business Network and initiatives going on in organizations is that we can't really wear two hats anymore. We can't go, okay, my personal viewpoint on life is going to be separate to the way in which I deal with my fellow co-workers. The reason why we need to integrate that sense of philosophy, I suppose, about life is that every time we do things with certain belief systems, we create cultures. So traditionally in the past, we would have had quite strong cultures in isolated areas, such as a community or a race of people or a particular religious group. And we would find common things that we had, and then we would, conduct ourselves that way. By looking at the workplace, we might think, well, it's just my work, it's just the way I make money. Well, not really, because what's happened is we've had quite a large breakdown of very strong, intricate connections of culture in our society. So, we're living with, 20 different religions in our one suburb. We have diverse viewpoints going on in a town, in a city, because we do have people who have come from all of these traditional cultural backgrounds. So the merging of culture has become huge. There are massive departments called people and culture in organizations. And so culture is huge. Now the thing is that by creating a culture internally in an organization, we find common things that we can, work with. So there's a lot more value-based things going on. But the thing that's going on is that these organizations are becoming the largest influencer of what's going on in the world. So therefore, whatever products, whatever services, whatever we do to the people, so government departments, what they do to the people affects the overall culture. So the overall culture is predominantly affected by organizations. That whole idea of corporations ruling the world. Well, it's because we've given over so much influence to that avenue to shape culture. So there is a few factors. There's how are we treated when we go to work? Yes, we would like to be treated well. We'd like to be respected for our diverse viewpoints. So there's a lot that goes into that. Then it's how do we want these organizations to treat the planet and to treat people. And we want to work with organizations that actually have a lot more respect for people and for planet. So traditionally, corporations, organizations were set up to create competitiveness, give us choice, and then be very profit-oriented to be able to be sustainable and survive and benefit those who put the effort in. What's happened, though, is that profit focus was just out of control, really. We all knew that. And so there has been a change to being a little bit more people-oriented. So people just didn't want to work as a factory worker type person who went in and was just expected to be treated terribly and then churn out whatever needed to be churned out and for the benefit of profit. So obviously we've moved on from that, but we were really in that. So not long ago, 50 years ago, there was this sort of mechanical way since the Industrial Revolution to actually say, this is how we're going to be, and everybody just has to accept it. You see those images of that poor man in that suit and tie who used to have to, have the woman at home and the children and go off and be treated pretty badly, receive some money, come back, feed the family, be stressed, and then look like he didn't care. He used to get there were images of, he'd walk in the door and the wife would have to actually give him food. He'd sit there, have his, pipe and slippers given to him. Maybe in an Australian culture, a beer, watch the footy or something, and then he'd sit there while the woman and the children had to be pretty quiet so he could just relax. Now, that's the extremity of really how dysfunctional we created our workplaces. And remember, I'm talking about workplaces, and workplaces are not just about earning some money, earning profit for us people. It's having a massive impact on people and planet because it is the largest cultural influencer going on. So if we then just look at the whole picture now, what's happened is that individuals have got to the tipping point of stress from the inner sense of how am I going to survive this sort of very challenging way of living where costs of living are so high and I have to work long hours in potentially a job or a place where I go for most of my day that I don't know if I necessarily agree with. Now that could be at a level of I don't really like what I do to I'm not really happy in this toxic environment with these people to this place is actually harming the planet and it doesn't feel good in my inner. So you can see why people have a bit of stress. We have turmoil, and then you've got that going on, and then you've also got the fact that all of these individual expressions or experiences that people are having are actually built up to the point that there's a whole bunch of people walking around probably unaligned, not authentic to some meaningful things that we'd want to be doing. So going back to that sense, when we had a sense of strong culture in a community, in a town, in a tribe, we would have guidance from elders, for example, and a local sense of, let's solve this problem together. But we've sort of lost that because we've given away all of that. We've become quite separate, and we've actually moved to places where we don't really feel that sense of community and culture, and then really we're sort of left a little bit alone to go back and, somehow deal with work and deal with life and deal with all of these issues and watch and observe that the planet is being polluted and things are going on. So really, we need to just accept that we have chosen to move away from more safer, loving ways to create and local ways to create community and culture. And we've given that over to these larger bodies called corporations, governments, organizations. Now, we can think maybe there's a small percentage of people that created that and we all sort of didn't realize what was happening and we actually went along with it. And the thing is rather than sit back and blame and feel, disempowered, every time we blame, we feel disempowered, we have a choice to start to say, okay, well, what am I going to do about that? So there's a massive shift and move and need and desire deep within each person to create change. And that is causing people to do quite radical things. And it's also causing people to sometimes be put in a position where we have massive health problems, for example, and we have to make change. Amazing stories going on. And we need to hear these new narratives, these new stories, the positive ones, of someone. I have a close friend who I've met recently who has in the last 7 months radically changed, worked in finance, worked in a large organization, and been told she has bowel cancer. And she is just amazing as a person, really on a journey of exploration, probably in a very accelerated way. I know that I myself, about 7 years ago, had some massive things happen in my life at all angles, from my mother passing away, children transitioning into adulthood, a big vision of an eco-village that I wanted to do, some guidelines with landowners didn't quite work out. A lot of things happened where that really affected both work, health, life, well-being, sense of community, family, you name it. And I've had, a good 7 years to luckily have the chance to rebuild what wasn't strong foundations and be very confident and have clarity now on, what it really does take to explore life in a very exciting way, while there could potentially be a lot of issues going on. Now, as I said, some people have massive things that have happened and they've got, within 7 months, a radical change and exciting change in life. Some have taken longer. All I can say is it needs to happen because this tipping point is so predominant as our culture that we need to. So the key is just to jump on the fast-moving river, but jump on with some guidance, some guidelines. So what a whole bunch of people that I'm working with are doing is we are looking at the reshaping of how we set up our organizations, and it has to be aligned to nature. So for thousands and thousands of years, we've known that we have to actually work with nature so that we can, feed ourselves. The original colonization occurred when, we came out and then all of a sudden didn't even know how to eat, the local food. So, that's the extremity. We need to learn a lot of different things so that we can survive this new culture, but actually be the ones who can create the change through being more self-responsible. So by, first of all, looking at designs of how we create our organizations so that it benefits the people in the organization and creates products and services that benefit people in our world and benefits the planet, we need to actually go back to how nature works. So I use the term natural human design. So looking at how nature designs things, it's perpetual, it lasts, it works, it has a natural flow to it. It isn't mechanical. It isn't just all these separate pieces. It is honoring that there is an intricate connection of everything. So there are 6 principles that I use. Now I'm sharing all of this because this isn't, hey, come and do something different and form another belief system and start following another thing. It's, hey, there is something that's universal, eternal, has been lasting for centuries longer than the sort of dysfunction we've created since the Industrial Revolution. Here are some ways in which we can return back to how nature works and apply these designs to however we do everything, however we work together, what we design in terms of products and services, so that whatever we're doing is having a positive impact on people and planet. And by the way, to be sustainable, we can definitely look at the profit too. But the profit in terms of benefiting the community, benefiting the employees, benefiting this town, this place, this city, this country first before it goes, for example, offshore to a small percentage of shareholders or stakeholders. So natural human design is one of the models we're looking at to create a framework of 6 principles that nature uses to design things. There's already big movements of human-centered design. Obviously, we need to actually design things around how a human would benefit from it. So that's a big focus. Design thinking is just general thinking, design principles that have been used, for example, in architecture and engineering to make sure the bridge doesn't fall down, the building doesn't fall down. It's a great sort of discipline, but it forgets the people factor, and it definitely, often architecture has to work with nature, but we're designing a lot of cultural and products and services that aren't thinking about the planet. So everything needs to pretty much be about how can I benefit people and planet. So the next initiative to create more narrative, more stories of what we can do, not just the problems, is the Conscious Business Network. So conscious business, the idea is it's for everyone. It's not just a business owner. It's not just, hey, I want to do a fancy business and I want it to be really cool so people buy my products. It's not just for leaders to encourage employees to be more conscious in the way in which this business is heading. It's actually for everyone. It's for, are you a consumer? Yes. Do you want to buy products and services and support businesses that actually are more conscious? Yes. Come along, hear stories, and then bring it into your workplace. If you find out, for example, that having more plants in a pretty badly designed building environment called work, if a huge amount of plants that come in can neutralize a lot of the pollutants and toxins and issues that you have going on that cause you to feel sluggish and tired and unable to concentrate, well then, that could be a simple thing. And I've heard a great story of someone who heard all of this, passionately went back into a workplace and said, hey team, I really feel we might need to do this so that we can actually all have a better work environment. It's individuals, it's self-responsibility, it's what can I do, especially in these large places called organizations that are creating the predominant culture that's affecting people and planet. We can be the change that we wish to see. Come along to the Conscious Business Network, which is going to be Australia-wide already in a few places. And it's to help create that narrative of hearing amazing speakers and having some conversations with people and creating networks where we say, I'd rather work with you, I'd rather come and work for you, and I'd rather use your products and services. And this is done in a way that feels authentic because I have personally come along to something and I'm making that decision, I'm empowering myself to be self-responsible, to decide who and how I work. And then that has the rippling effect. So a lot of people are feeling like that they have to go, sit on a mountain or go and leave work and just meditate more or move to the country, grow some vegetables. I did all of that for 7 years. I've lived off-grid. I love it. I love nature. It really did open up a love for nature and all its systems. I've worked in eco businesses to, really honor that there is a way you can design businesses. So I've done it all. But we don't need to run away, because these large conglomerates need people, or need to slowly from the inside transition to nicer ways to work and be and provide services and products. So join groups of people like the Conscious Business Network, look at the principles of natural human design, and start to create the change you wish to see in your own way, in your own small groups. Tap into this worldwide movement, because it's a neutral way of doing something that can still honor different, for example, religions, cultures, races, diversity. It's not segregating, it's uniting. And the duality that we've created from seeing everything as mechanical separate parts is the reason why we have so much conflict. So we need to have some unifying principles, and nature offers that, because nature, we just know how things work and how things don't work. And so we don't have to become religious to make change. We don't have to join one group with a certain belief system to make change. In fact, after a while, you'll realize that we have, through this separation and duality, we have created too many beliefs. Beliefs actually form perceptions, which form judgments. Now, there's a whole story behind why that happens, because in the first phase, I go back to those two phases. The first phase is saying, wow, I'm living in this physical reality. And so we use our brain to make sense of things. By doing that, we start to form separation. We start to form beliefs. We start to listen to people and say, oh, this is how we should live. And by creating cultures, which was a good thing, we have then formed sort of, I suppose, a perspective on life. Now, if we have very strong beliefs, we then have conflict. We have conflict with ourselves when we see people or things different to what we perceive as our beliefs. So beliefs tend to, right now, because we're too global and too many issues, beliefs are causing so much conflict. So we need to rethink that. Now, I'm not saying leave religions, leave your groups, leave whatever you've decided to join to feel a sense of belonging, but know that that belonging sometimes is causing you to feel very isolated and separate from the whole of humanity and from the planet sometimes. So there's a massive amount of work that needs to be done internally. It's not just changing workplaces, but it's who am I? And how can I start to let go of a lot of these beliefs and just understand my mind does want to make sense, but I might need to go with more principles that are uniting, and principles that may seem religious, but they're just a way of life. And it's a way that I can live and work with people in a really harmonious way. So that's a massive topic. Phase 1, shifting from allowing the mind to be the predominant way in which we thrive, to actually going into a deeper sense of principles, which then leads us into phase 2, which is we are actually living in a reality that's much more than physical. Science knows that there's 99% space and nothingness, the quantum field of all possibilities, and there is just a small percentage of physical matter. We've heard a lot of these messages, yet there are so many people who just sort of avoid all of that because they leave it to their religion, or they leave it to separate from work. But however we are as a person, however we are internally, reflects on the way in which we do what we do and what we're supporting, which then reflects on how the world is. So big topic, but ultimately there is a neutral way to move away from very strong beliefs, groups, separation, and actually find a really lovely way to live that we can live internally that brings about so much happiness and joy. And it's not following a belief, it's actually just returning back to what our intuition, our gut, our sort of more natural self knows. And then it's something that we can then bring into workplaces. So we come in not saying, we have to save the planet, I'm in fear, or I'm in anger and I'm in frustration. But hey, let's do some amazing things with this creative ability we have as humans, and let's create some change with love, with kindness, with patience, with all those qualities we know are good. Ultimately, our feelings and these sort of feelings of joy, love, awe, wonderment, they are the things that give us energy and fuel us and make us powerful and strong and expansive. Things like fear, anger, frustration, they disempower us, make us lose energy, and make us feel like there's no hope. So there's a whole array of sort of re-education and how we can be as a more natural human design for both our internal self, but also the way in which we design our products and services. So yeah, if we were to all just jump ship and actually return back to community living like we used to of our ancient ways, that would be amazing. And I did give it a go. But there's so much internal work that needs to be done first. So why not do it wherever we are? Do it within the organization. Already there's some amazing organizations that are doing amazing things. Lots more people are wanting to go to the not-for-profits, but we can still be profit, people, planet, and we can call ourselves social enterprises, which is what we do. So we think about all three, and the profit, it tends to be more about benefiting those who are participating rather than selling it off to the people that we don't know where they are, who are benefiting, the 1%ers who are benefiting from a lot of the way in which things have been set up. So that's a concise way of explaining some of the things we can do. Conscious business. Get in there, work with what we have, rethinking our own design, natural human design internally, and then also how we can design our products and services. It's all a very neutral way of doing things, which will still allow us to be part of any society, any culture, any religion, any race. But remember, the stronger the beliefs and the separateness that we've created in our own little bubble has created all the conflict that then creates the problems for people and planet. So let's start with new narratives of what we can do. Here's some amazing people. We're bringing them together, and join some amazing people and groups that can actually have these open conversations so we can redesign a more natural human design of ways that we can look after people and planet. Let's do it.